Have you ever heard someone say that quantum physics proves your thoughts create reality? It sounds like the ultimate power trip, doesn't it? You, an influential architect of existence, rewriting the universe with a mere thought. It's a compelling idea. But what if I told you it was all a misunderstanding? Let's dive deep into the origins of this idea and untangle where quantum physics ends and wishful thinking begins. First, let's talk about the observer effect. The term itself pops up everywhere, from science fiction to self-help books, usually accompanied by sweeping statements about the magical powers of human consciousness. But here's the thing. In quantum mechanics, the observer doesn't mean you personally, sitting behind your desk marveling at a physics experiment on YouTube. In fact, it's way more grounded. Instruments measuring particles count as observers. There's no mysticism. It's literally recording an outcome, like when your speedometer measures how fast your car is going. Now here's where things get weird enough to be misunderstood. Back in the early days of quantum theory, experiments like the double-slit experiment shook the foundations of everything we thought we knew about matter and light. Remember this? You shoot particles, like electrons or photons, at a barrier with two slits, then observe the pattern on the screen behind it. If you don't observe them closely, you get this beautiful interference pattern, as though the particles acted like waves and went through both slits simultaneously. But when you set up a detector to check which slit the particle actually passed through, the wave pattern collapses. Instead, you get clumps, like particles behaved like little billiard balls. Spooky, right? So here's the leap some people make. Oh, it's my observing eyes that make this happen. Consciousness is king. But pump the brakes. This isn't about your brain, your mind, or your energy. It's about interaction. To measure something at the quantum level, you actually have to physically interact with it, using devices like electromagnetic fields or photons of light, basically shooting another particle at it. The minute you do that, you disturb the particle's state enough to collapse its quantum possibilities into one observable outcome. Think of it this way. Imagine you're trying to figure out if a penny on the floor is heads or tails, but the room's pitch dark. To observe it, you toss a flashlight at it. The act of hitting the penny flips it half the time. It's the act of probing, not your intentions, that changes the result. Still with me? Good, because next we need to clear up another misconception: wave function collapse. Some people latch onto this quantum term because it feels like the kind of magic you'd find in a fantasy novel. But collapse doesn't mean reality folds itself according to your whims. Here's what's actually going on. A quantum wave function is just a mathematical tool that describes all the potential states something could exist in before you measure it. The collapse doesn't need you, personally, to look at it with eyes full of wonder. A dog, a camera, or even an utterly unconscious rock could influence the outcome if it interacted with the particle as a measuring device. Am I blowing some minds yet? Let's turn up the heat. You might know some pop culture reference like, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, does it make a sound? In quantum physics world, the tree not only makes a sound, it falls in all possible ways until somebody checks on it. Only when it's measured, by any physical interaction, do we pin down a reality. For example, photons bouncing off the tree's leaves, crashing into a bird's eyes, conscious or not, acts as a measurement. Reality doesn't care whether you're around to Instagram it. But what about quantum entanglement, that poster child of bizarre phenomena? When two particles are entangled, measuring one instantly tells you about the state of the other, no matter if they're light years apart. Doesn't this kind of support the idea of awareness shaping reality? It might sound like it, but the truth stays grounded in physics. Quantum systems follow strict rules that have nothing to do with what you desire them to do. It's math, not magic. Here's what adds to the confusion. Scientists use everyday language to describe very non-everyday phenomena. When physicists say things like, the wave function knows, they don't mean it knows in the conscious sense. They're just using shorthand for saying the probabilities of outcomes adjust based on circumstances. Sadly, that shorthand leaves the door wide open for misinterpretation. Let's throw in one more curveball. Quantum experiments, like Schrödinger's cat. If you've ever heard the metaphor about a cat being both dead and alive until you open the box, you might ask, does the cat really need me to peek and save it from its quantum limbo? The simple answer, nope. The cat itself, being made of gazillions of particles constantly interacting with each other in all kinds of ways, is more than enough to collapse its own wave function. Left alone, the cat already knows its fate long before you lift the lid. And this brings me to the bigger question. Why does this myth of consciousness controlling quantum reality persist? I think it's because humans naturally want to feel powerful, special, even central, in the grand scheme of things. But nature doesn't revolve around us, not even on a quantum level. The reality of quantum mechanics is fascinating enough without trying to inflate it into something mystical. It's chaotic, mind-bending, and humbling. It challenges our instincts about what's real. But it also reminds us, the universe isn't our puppet. It's stranger and more self-contained than we'll probably ever fully grasp. So now that you know this, how does it change the way you see the world, or the way you see yourself? If you're fascinated by peeling back layers of big misconceptions to find the messy beauty of real science, this is what Hyperfocus is all about. Subscribe to keep digging deeper, comment if you've got questions, and share if you loved blowing someone else's mind with this. Stay hyper-focused and keep questioning what reality really means.